This is the next segment in my saga of my article on some kids are kicked in the head by a horse. When I got to the Catholic high school, I really turned into a punching bag. Um, Starting in the fourth grade and into the seventh grade, my brother Gabriel used a plank of wood to teach me lessons. I would bend over the desk and he'd whack the hell out of me with this plank of wood. But at this point in my life, I was getting bigger. I was getting stronger. And I had learned to box. And I got into a habit of not being afraid to fight anybody. And that was in my third year of high school. And my rebellion against school and teachers was really magnified this year when in my junior year, the principal asked me to leave the school. I was a problem child. So I didn't care because I had an uncle who was a gangster on the West Side docks in New York City. And he was a big time racketeer. And he told me if I wanted to quit school, he would get me a job working on the docks. And I wouldn't have to shape up. I would have a full-time job, making good money. And that kind of appealed to me. And I didn't care much about my uncle being a gangster. He was arrested as a kid for murder and did a lot of years for that crime. When he came out, he went right back to crime again. And but I liked him. I've always seemed to gravitate to people with these kind of backgrounds, and they gravitate to me. So my junior year in high school, they threw me out, and I didn't care. But they wanted to see my mother. My mother came to see the principal, and here come those famous words again. Mrs. Plunkett, your son is a wise guy. At this juncture, I didn't know what a wise guy was, but I'm called a wise guy again. And you heard the definition of a wise guy, and yes, looking back upon it, I was a wise guy. So they threw me out. My mother came down and pleaded my case. And so they took me back. And no sooner did they take me back than I started acting up again, especially by not going to school, playing hooky. I just didn't go to school. And again, they expelled me. But this time, they wanted to see my father. Me and my father never got along. I gave my mother the nickname of Black and Blue because he was always beating her up, and she always had black and blue marks on her body. We just never got along. I wished him dead many times. Well, anyway, the principal said, I want to see your father if you want to get back. So my father came down, and he just sat there very silent. My father was a mean, big man who loved to beat people up. I don't think he ever lost a fight. His nickname was Rocky. So he comes down to see the principal. The principal tells my father, your son is a wise guy. If you don't straighten him out, he's through. He can't come back. So my father and I left the school. We walked up 2nd Avenue, New York City. We didn't speak, we never spoke to each other, to tell you the truth. But he turned to me and said, you know what? You are a wise guy. And I don't care what happens to you, because you're a punk. And he just walked away and left me there. And I went home by myself. Here comes a game changer. I hated my father so much that I said to myself, "You son of a bitch, I'll finish school. I'll show you." So I went back to class in my junior year, behaved myself, and in my senior year, they gave me a scholarship for baseball and basketball because I excelled in both sports. And that kept me going in my senior year without any trouble. Uh, as I said, I excelled in baseball and basketball to the point that some universities were showing an interest in me. Among Catholic schools in New York in those days, which was the early 1950s, I was known as the best pure shooter in basketball in the Catholic schools. I very seldom would miss they called a set shot in those days, and now they call it a jump shot. And in most games, I was the leading scorer. In baseball, in my senior year, I was again the leading hitter with lots of power, and I had only one home run that year, but I had a lot of doubles and triples. So my sports became my big thing. But thanks to my father saying he didn't care what I did finish high school. And lo and behold, the Korean War came along. And I was all set to go to Duke University on a scholarship for baseball and basketball. My father raised his ugly head and said, "You are not going to go to college. You're going to go into the U.S. Navy." And I said, "No way in hell am I going to go into the U.S. Navy." So he said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Well, I'll keep on beating your mother then. Then what are you going to do?" Well, I love my mother so much. I would give it to willing to sacrifice my scholarships to Duke University to save my mother. And lo and behold, when I told my coach in high school I was going to forego a scholarship to Duke University for baseball and basketball and go into the Navy, he asked me why, and I was too embarrassed to tell him. I couldn't tell him the real reason. I did it to save my mother's life. And so I went into the Navy, and all of a sudden I had a problem with my shipmates. I found out people didn't like New Yorkers. A lot of my shipmates were from the South, and lo and behold, fights would begin. And it lasted through boot camp. When I got to my first ship, the same thing happened. I was asked to leave that ship because of my fighting with my shipmates. And I explained to the skipper, "They're picking on me." He says, "No, you're a troublemaker." And so lo and behold, I left that ship. I went to another ship, and to another ship, with the same problem. But the last ship I went to, again, I'm fighting with my shipmates. And it was a very dangerous assignment I had. It was what we call a seagoing tug, which is a very dangerous duty. When I volunteered for it, I didn't know it was dangerous. All I knew was that I was told it was easy duty. There was no spit and polish. And I kind of liked that idea. But I volunteered for this dangerous job without knowing how dangerous it was. Now at this juncture, I'm going to take a break again because logistically we're running out of time. But I will continue in the future with another game changer in my life where I had an accident and I lost most of my left hand. Thank you.